Have you ever felt like you don't get enough chances to speak English?
If you don't have money to travel or hire English teachers, it's not easy to find someone to practice your English with.
This is such a common problem for many English learners.
But do you think it's possible to learn English on your own?
Many great English speakers have actually practiced it alone, and there are so many ways you can practice your English by yourself. We're going to share 10 ways of learning English alone today.
Relax and learn simple English with Easygoing English podcast.
This is the 5th episode of the Easygoing English podcast hosted by Claire.
And I'm Josh. If you're learning English and want a chill way to improve, you're in the right place.
Today we're going to share how to practice English by yourself, even if you don't have anybody to practice it with.
And if you find this video useful, hit the like button.
All right, let's get started. This might sound strange, but one of the most powerful ways to practice English on your own is by talking to yourself. Literally speaking out loud. You may feel a bit awkward at first, but a good thing about practicing English by speaking to yourself is that there's absolutely no reason to be shy or worry about making mistakes. When speaking to someone, you may be anxious about messing up the pronunciation or making grammar mistakes.
Yeah, that's super common. You're worried you might say something incorrect.
When you are speaking to yourself, that's not a concern. And the first step in making this practice more natural is by thinking in English.
But how would you suggest that our viewers start doing that?
What I found effective when learning foreign languages is narrating what you're doing either in your head or even by speaking out loud.
Yeah, I actually narrate myself and annoy my girlfriend occasionally.
Maybe you'll want to tone it down when someone else is around, but let's assume you're alone. You can say, I am getting out of bed now. I'm going to have breakfast before work so that I won't feel hungry before lunch. I'm doing the dishes now.
Yeah, constantly narrating what you're doing. I think it's a good way of practicing creating sentences. I often encourage my language exchange partners to speak English as much as possible when they're alone.
Another good practice, describe what's going on around you. For example, you can open the curtains and talk about the weather. What's the weather like today? Is it sunny? Is it raining? How's the temperature?
You don't have to vocalize your thoughts. Thinking in your head can also help you practice.
Right. Let's say you're heading to a store. If you pay attention, so many things are usually going on around you. You can say in your head, the car just stopped. The traffic light turned green. It's starting to rain.
You don't need to be fancy. Just describe what you see or hear. That's real-life English.
The point is you're constantly training your brain to connect the world around you with English words.
And over time, it'll come faster and feel more natural.
If talking to yourself gets boring, try imagining you're talking to someone else. You could pretend to be two people having a conversation. What do you think of eating sushi for dinner? We had sushi last night. Let's cook pasta instead. Or you could pretend that you're on a radio show. Maybe you're hosting the show and having a guest. You can practice the back and forth of the conversation.
Yeah, role-playing a podcast show like this would be fun. You can talk about whatever you feel like talking about. Maybe you can talk about what you just saw on the news, or you're giving someone advice.
Doing so would make you summarize what you had heard or seen and tell that information to the other person, like podcast shows.
Yeah, it might feel a little weird at first, but once you get used to it, you'll see how effective this method really is.
And if you remember from our previous episode, activities like this help you remember vocabulary you've learned. Josh and I talked about how our memory works, so feel free to check out the episode.
Good point. Using the vocabulary you learned will help you remember it for a long time. It's all practice, and practice builds confidence.
And this is something I've heard from my friend I met back in college. She was an international student from Korea, and she spoke English very well. One of the practice methods that she shared with me was that she pretended to be both an English teacher and a student.
Interesting. So, she taught herself English, no pun intended.
Right. When she just moved to the US and didn't speak English so well, she had a hard time making friends and couldn't afford to hire English tutors. So she practiced speaking by teaching herself English that way.
That's really impressive. She didn't let the situation stop her from getting better at English.
Yup. It's an interesting technique that I thought I should share with everyone. All right, next up is listening to podcasts. The key here is repetition. You can speak along with your favorite show, or imagine how you'd respond to their questions and share your own stories.
Yeah, When I listen to a podcast, I often find myself wondering how to answer the questions asked by the host and what I would say if I were the guest.
I think thinking about these questions would help you practice forming your opinions, which is a critical skill for fluency. One of the goals in learning a language is being able to communicate your thoughts and feelings as effectively as possible.
That's a great point. It's really satisfying when you can have a meaningful discussion with other people in the language you've spent so much time learning.
It's a really rewarding moment. You feel like you've just bonded with somebody in a meaningful way, in a language you couldn't speak just a few years ago.
Yeah, that can feel a lot more satisfying than just having a casual conversation.
Do you have any favorite podcasts?
I sometimes listen to a storytelling podcast when I go to sleep.
Yeah, listening to a podcast while sleeping is a good way of learning English. We covered how passive learning can be effective in our first episode. If you want, you can listen to it. Learning English in a relaxed way might feel like you're not doing much, but it can help more than you think. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to create this channel. We're creating a playlist so you can let it play in the background while you relax. Okay, another great way to practice is reading books.
Yeah, if you want to expand your vocabulary, reading is really effective.
Yep, and I recommend reading them out loud. And change your voice and the way you talk depending on which character is speaking.
And add emotions while reading, just like a narrator. You can read along with the audiobook version too.
Yeah, that's a good way to learn both the vocabulary and the pronunciation. Are you reading any books now?
I'm actually reading an old book at the moment.
Oh, really? Which one?
I'm reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
That's classic. How do you like it?
I actually kind of like it. It's written in the old style, and some of the sentences are lengthy and complicated, but it's a really good book. I highly recommend it. Have you ever read it?
I read it back in high school, so I don't remember much of it. But Jane Austen is a really famous author.
Yeah, she is. If you read it, you'll understand why.
Maybe we should do an episode on great books for learning English.
That's a good idea.
All right, let's talk about shadowing. It's one of my favorite techniques.
So what is shadowing?
It's when you listen to a native speaker, like in a podcast, an audiobook, or a video, and speak along with them at the same time.
Like you're their shadow, just a little behind their voice.
Exactly. First, you listen to the recording a few times. Then you read along. And finally, you speak with it. Try to match the tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. Start with short stuff, like a 1-minute clip. If it's too hard, pause and repeat. You don't need to understand every single word at first. Focus on the flow. It helps with your pronunciation and your listening skills. My tip to get the most out of shadowing is to use materials that are around your current English level or even a little bit easier. That way, you can focus on getting the pronunciation and the flow of the language right. And it can be even more effective if you do it after you've already studied the words and grammar.
So really nailing down what you've already learned.
Right. The next one is recording yourself. This one is important because one thing that is lacking when you're practicing alone is feedback. When you speak with someone else, you will know if you're saying it right based on whether or not they understand you. But when you're alone, you don't get the feedback.
That's a fair point. When I'm learning French, I often wonder if I'm pronouncing the words correctly.
And if you have a phone, there's usually a voice recording app that you can use. You can record yourself and listen to it. If there's audio, you can compare it to your pronunciation. You can improve your listening skills as well. Okay, moving on to the next one. Writing a diary. Do you keep a diary?
I used to, but not anymore. Do you?
I actually do. I started a few years ago. It's interesting to read what I wrote back then. There are so many things I forgot happened.
I bet. I tend to forget about the past. So when someone tells me about what we did together a few years ago, I always wonder if it actually happened.
If you easily forget, I highly recommend keeping a diary. It's a great way to keep track of your life, and if you're learning English, it's also a good way to practice. You can write down new vocabulary you learned that day, or try to use it when you write about what happened in your diary. It won't just show past events, but also your progress in English.
Yeah, that's a great point. Seeing how much you've improved can really motivate you.
Next up is AI apps.
We can't ignore them now. AI is advancing so fast. Do you remember when those AI apps first came out?
It wasn't that long ago, but I feel like so much has happened in such a short time. I remember how impressed I was at first. I could only chat with them through texting at first. Then they added a voice feature, which totally surprised me. I had to take turns with it at first, but now you can have a live conversation.
Yeah, I remember that too. There are so many apps you can use to practice your English now. Do you use any of them for your Japanese studies?
I use AI chat apps to practice speaking Japanese. I mostly use those apps to make sure I'm using words and phrases correctly.
I use those apps to practice speaking French too. You can have a casual chat with them like they're a friend.
Technology is changing fast, and now it's easier than ever to get speaking practice, even if you're completely alone.
No need to overthink it. Just talk to it like you're chatting with a friend.
I recommend that if you don't have friends to speak English with, talk to any of those apps for 10 minutes a day. And the last one is singing. Don't forget, music is a great way to learn English.
And it's arguably the most fun way to learn English alone.
Pick a song you love and sing along. Try to imitate how the singer sings. That helps you get the pronunciation and rhythm right. And you also learn more about culture. Music is full of slang, expressions, and feelings. Do you have any recommendations for a song to sing along to?
It's hard to pick one. My recommendation is to pick a song that's not so difficult first. Maybe something catchy, so it'll be easy to remember.
Good point. You don't want to pick a fast song if you're a beginner. But the point is to find a song that you can listen to and sing along to over and over again without getting bored. If you have a favorite song or a singer, start from there.
And the same goes for when you choose a podcast. Pick one that won't bore you, even if you listen to it every day. If you don't have a favorite, choose a topic and look for a show about it.
All right, that's it for today. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and like the video.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.